All right, good afternoon and welcome once again to the POLITY. This is, we went on a break and we're back now. We're still reaching you live from Abuja. I've been joined in the studio now by Barrister Kelechi Anwu. He's a legal practitioner and a policy analyst to join me and take a look and discussion on the issues at hand, like I said before the break. Welcome again. Good afternoon, Mr. Kelechi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Amadin. Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you back. It's been a while. Happy New Year, I guess.
I wish you an amazing year.
Yeah, you know, with Nigerians, it doesn't matter if it's December. As long as you're meeting for the first time, it's still Happy New Year.
I totally agree with you.
Welcome once again.
Thank you.
So let's head straight into the issues at hand. Let's start with Plea 2. There's a standoff in Plea 2 as the police are having a running battle with 16 sacked PDP lawmakers. These lawmakers feel that they've been hard done by the system, particularly because I believe part of the reasons why their cases went against them at the appeal level was also the same reason the governor at the time had his own case also reversed. But when it got to the Supreme Court, which is an option that they do not have, he was able to overturn it and he ended up victorious. I'd like to get your thoughts on this because, like they always say, the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. What happens after you feel you've gone to the judiciary and the results were not quite what you expected?
Yes, it's quite an unfortunate incident in our legal jurisprudence and in our legal perspective, given to the fact that most of what we do and most of what we do as lawyers and Nigerians are guided by certain laws. And for a situation in Plateau State, it's quite an unfortunate thing for an unfortunate scenario for the sacked lawmakers. Now, reason being that, considering the circumstances of their exit, the issue that we are in contention were the same issues that were addressed by the Supreme Court. But the unfortunate thing there is the very fact that the Constitution already pegged the last court upon which they are to entertain their matters to the Court of Appeal. If you understand that provision, a lot of persons are calling for a review of that provision, that matters should be had up to the Supreme Court. So we don't get to have this scenario. Now you have an instance where the Supreme Court is saying give an entirely different judgment, which is the two judgment, different from what the Court of Appeal gave. And now those whose matter ended at the Court of Appeal will have to bear the brunt. One, because the constitutionality of that matter has a time limit. It has a time upon which it must be exercised and adjudicated upon. Now, appeals arising from the tribunal to the Court of Appeal from matters of election petition of legislative houses must end at the Court of Appeal, and it must be decided within 60 days at the Court of Appeal. Now, if you are to say, do they have a remedy? They would have had a remedy if actually we were still within the time limit, the 60 days time limit. You understand? But the 60 days has elapsed. Can they move beyond the 60 days?
You mean if they were within the time limit?
If they were within the time limit.
What if the court had already ruled, Court of Appeal?
If they were within the time limit, if they were within the time limit, they could apply for a review of the judgment. You can apply for a review. Certain facts have shifted and there are higher authorities to that effect. Now, any judgment coming now that tell us within that same line will have to follow the Supreme Court precedent. Now, law is about following precedent and you must abide by the precedent. But as at that point, the Court of Appeal, the justices of the Court of Appeal ruled on the basis of what they see and what they know. But now, the goalpost has shifted. The knowledge has widened. We now have an espoused view rendered by the justices of the Supreme Court to the fact that that subject matter upon which they treated is a pre-election issue and should not have come into the tribunal matter. Now, the remedy they have now is to go and prepare for the next election. Don't also forget that it is not everybody who participated in that election that was sacked. It is only that judgment affects only those whose case were adjudicated upon. It does not sack. The judgment of a tribunal does not sack everybody. It cannot sack. It can only sack specific persons whose issues were brought to the court. The persons whose name appear on the processes that were. If let's assume there were cases against those number of persons, it only affects those number of persons whose matter were taken to court. If there are persons who were not able to go to court, it does not affect them. It does not affect them at all. So people are clamoring that there should be judicial activism. Judicial activism in the sense that you stretch the bounds of the law. But now, let us not forget that the Supreme Court in several cases has held that those timelines in the Constitution, those timelines provided by Constitution, are like the rocks of Gibraltar. It can never move. It cannot be shifted. It is there, it is there. It is static and it is permanent.
So what can we learn from this whole saga? Particularly because a lot of people have been saying that praising the president, really. I mean, it seems to an extent a peculiar situation where these governors who were able to get their decisions correctly, opposition governors, they've all been praising the president and thanking him for not interfering. It's an interesting one because, you know, you are praising the head of the executive for something that's happening in the judiciary. But, you know, that being said, people are saying there's an attempt to bring back that faith in the judiciary. But taking a look at what happened in Plateau, how is it something you can really explain to an average person? Why couldn't the Court of Appeal end up with the eventual, will I say, decision of the Supreme Court? Or is it just something that can always can happen at any time?
Now, this is the situation we find ourselves in Nigeria. Let's not also forget that the justices of the Supreme Court are human beings, and just like Justice Oputa says that the Supreme Court is not infallible, but they are final. They are not final because they are not infallible, but they are final because they are the last court. You understand? The justices of the Court of Appeal are human beings, and humans are bound to make one or two mistakes and errors. Let me not put it that way. As at that point, they decided that matter on the basis of facts within and circumstances within their reach. But as you can see, the Supreme Court has given a more elaborate meaning and understanding to it. And the Supreme Court's decision overrides every other decision. As much as it might not override this one, because it has already been decided upon and it has not been brought to their... but subsequent decisions that will be decided on similar subject matters will have to feast on the decision of the Supreme Court. You cannot go above the Supreme. There must be stare decisis. You must follow the precedent of the Supreme Court in deciding future matters. As it concerns this subject matter.
So what would you say is the way forward now? I know you've already spoken about the time. I'm speaking now in terms of the actual governance and actual the legislature functioning to the end of the 4-year tenure. We have here that the Speaker of the Assembly says that only 8 members are recognized, and we've seen this occur in a few places where a governor or a state can actually run pretty much 4 years or more with just maybe let's say half a legislature. Is this sustainable?
Yes.
What should be the remedy? Is this a case where there should be elections being done again, or what's the way forward?
Now, the question is to review the judgment of the Court of Appeal. Did the judgment of the Court of Appeal affirm those ones as validly elected? If they were elected, they can ask for a specific performance and let them be brought in and sworn in. Now, in such circumstances, but without being sworn in, the Constitution already provides that persons, even though the legislative houses fall below the numbers that are provided for them, they can still go ahead with their matters. As long as there are people who are still there who can still manage events. Those ones, government cannot be on standstill simply because there are issues unresolved. Right. The government must go on.
Yeah, so sorry, just a correction there. Actually, the court actually did affirm the APC counterparts who came second in the election. So I guess they are supposed to.
So if the court actually affirmed them as having won the election, it is for them to apply that they should be sworn in, and they will be sworn in. The moment they are sworn in, from the day they were declared, their salary and emoluments started in from that day.
All right, so let's quickly move over so that we can cover some issues. To the issue of insecurity, I believe you stay in Abuja. You're aware of some of the happenings recently. We'll take a look now at a local government chairman in Rivers State, the state where the current minister comes from, and some allegations he made regarding the insecurity in this state and who he laid the blame at. I'd like to just get your thoughts on that video before we move on and we talk more about it. So let's take a look at that now. When we return, we hear your thoughts on it.
When he took office, from the first of office, started Operation Zero Port Hold. From there, he started doing projects. When the weekend, in the first 3 months in office, did the internal road. Kumara should tell us what project has he done? Other than carrying our money and paying bribe to insult weekend, he's paying people to go and tell Abuja that weekend is playing politics in Rivers State, that they are doing kidnapping in Abuja. It means that Kumara is part of those supporting the kidnapping in Abuja because he wants to weekend to live off. Let's say we will not live office. Tinubu is aware of who he appointed. And I'm happy that Tinubu is happy that he's weekend delivering in the service of democracy. They said they will remove him from office. I'm not afraid. So the point is clear. The voice on weekend is the pride of the River State people. We are challenging anybody to come and tell us if he can beat the record of the voice on weekend. By the way, our former governor, Sir Dr. Peter Odele, said in a public function that the voice on weekend has broken all records by all former governors. What did he say so? So what did he have said so? Who is it who wants?
All right, welcome back. There you have it. I'd like to get your thoughts. He says that the governor has been sponsoring people to besmirch the FCT minister's name, and that means that the governor, or he alleges that the governor is part of the insecurity. I'd like to get your thoughts on, first of all, the issue of insecurity generally, and what you make of these comments being made almost of a political nature.
I do not like the very fact that persons who are not empowered to make such commentaries are making it. For this is security issue in Nigeria is a very serious issue, and he's neither a security personnel, neither has he furnished us with any evidence as to facts that he has alluded to. These are allegations that neither me nor you or any other Nigeria is privy to. Now he will have to furnish us with evidence that will point. There are pointers to these allusions and allegations that he has made. Now, these issues are not issues that people should play politics with. These are people's life.
Yes.
Now, in a situation where all we need is just to be safe, in a situation where even the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria is not safe, persons should not, in their own accord, make bogus statements, heating up the polity, and making citizens and residents afraid of, being unnecessarily scared and afraid of their lives and situations. Now, this is not part of it. This is not part of governance. It is not part. In fact, left for me, at the point of where he finished this statement, if we had a working country, the DSS should have invited him to come and make appropriate clarification as to If maybe he knows things that we don't know, let me not say it is entirely true or not true. Maybe he knows things that we don't know, but we need to make more clarifications. If need be, bring in TV and radio stations, journalists to also watch his interrogation and let him give us his findings as to the insecurity. If we can get the result that will end insecurity, who are we to say no? If he was the one who should give us the go-ahead, the information that are necessary to apprehend who is behind all this. People have lost their lives. People are still in captivity. People are going missing on daily basis.
Right.
It is not something you come out and make these blanket allegations.
So what do you make of what the minister is trying to do? He has said that there will be collaboration amongst the states that border the FCT to try and solve this issue. In terms of the one chance issue, the governor the minister is proposing that only marked or only painted cabs should be allowed to apply the roads of Abuja and so on and so forth.
Would that be the end of it? Would that be the end of it? Maybe not. Maybe not. Because there are situations where even the marked cabs have been used for these one chance operations. They have been used for these things. And persons who have been witnesses to these things. Most of us who have been in Abuja for a very long while, we understand that these are menace. These are things that go on daily basis. We will need to do more than a TV talk and a paper talk. Than we will need, if need be, position security agents, fill in the entire society with informants and people who can provide adequate information. The DSS should get on their feet. Security, police, civil defense, they should get on their feet. If it entails appearing or going on these guys, they should. As long as they make us safe, it is something they should be able to get Abuja back to safety.
Fair enough. It's an interesting one there. And at the very least, the governor has suggestions. You know, sometimes when issues of security happens, we hear blanket statements like, we will make sure things are done. Now he has directed approach. If it will work or not is what
one thing is to say it, and another thing is to implement it and get it working. We've had so many things in this country where even people said there will be end to Boko Haram, there will be end to this, there will be end to that. There will someone is even said that Nigeria will start producing airplanes by 2023. These are policies that were engineered by government. But till today, we are still battling with the same situation. It will be a wonderful thing if this one. But we've been down with trial and error method for a very long while. Let the team get to their drawing board and get things working.
Fair enough. That's on the issue of insecurity. And let's move quickly now to the Ogun State matter. We'll take a clip, but before we take that clip, I'd just like to get your thoughts as to the basis for impeachments. Are they meant to be something, something more detailed or something more deeper and more nuanced when these issues are made? Because the idea, I believe, of the average Nigerian is that whenever there is a majority anywhere, they can simply decide to impeach whoever they want to impeach. Maybe they do not like the color of his skin or how he dresses to work and so on and so forth. So I'd like to get that perspective. What do you think is the proper grounds for impeachment proceedings across board? Now,
the issue of impeachment of House legislative members, legislative heads are quite different from the issue of impeachment of executive heads. As you can see, the impeachment of an executive head is a very difficult issue. But it is different when it comes to impeachment of a legislative head. In legislative head, you will just need a simple majority. Now, you must be doing a bad thing for a higher number in the house that you control to be totally against you. You must not be doing it right.
What if you are actually trying to fight some sort of systemic corruption?
And the entire house gangs up against you. Now, there are certain things that will... one is misconduct. Definition of what misconduct means is will be given either by the House or by the court. If it, and don't also forget, most of the law provides that proceedings at the House of Assembly cannot, at the floor of the House of Assembly, are privileged and cannot be challenged, except the procedures have not been followed. It is only where the procedure has not been followed that you get to challenge the procedures and know what actually happened. Now, what forms a gross misconduct is not relative. It moves. One thing can be gross misconduct, and another can also be gross misconduct, depending on the difference between 6 and 9 is where you're standing from. So it's left for the House. The majority of it, if the majority has decided that this is what they want, they have the right to change their leader, whoever leads the House. Each of them has a power. Each of the members has equal rights to participate and can also be a leader, provided he's chosen.
Fair enough. So now let's take a look at the video and get a little bit of insight into how these lawmakers made their decision. So take a look now at some lawmakers speaking after the fact and giving their reasons, or the reasons for their agreement with the former speaker. Let's take a look at that now.
Right Honorable Oluomo came on board. We never wanted it. But the leadership of the party thought because he was once a speaker, we should allow him to he should continue as a speaker. We all agreed as a faithful party person. Now the situation is, Oluomo will go everywhere. He will come to us as members and tell us governor has not approved any money. Governor has not been giving us any money. That we should manage things. We keep managing. We later found out that governor has been giving us money. He takes memo to the governor, he takes everything to the governor, he gets money, he comes back to South. Let me give you a good example of this. The quarters allowance. When we came on board, governor gave us money for the renovation. Oluomo took, after giving members, each member, the remaining one, he took it and spent embezzled the remaining ones. He took the remaining one and embezzled it. All these things are there that I'll send to you as well. You put on this. Now we said 18 of us came together and said we can't be the same. We can't be looking at these things. This thing is our future. How can we manage ourselves with Ogun? We said no, we don't want. He keep inciting members against each other. He keep inciting legislators against executive. This is so bad. We cannot take this anymore. His arrogance is full. So I believe we have changed the leadership. We have changed the leadership of the House. The House is in control of Right Honorable Elemido Oluda Solution and remain.
Let him go and clear his name with the existing litigation he has with TFCS.
And he should not clear his name with the existing litigation he has.
We are not fighting Mr. Governor.
My name is Shone Damilabaka, representing Obafemi Owodele.
Don't you think this will go against the reach of Mr. Governor?
No, it will not. The governor doesn't interfere with the legislative arm of
As a matter of fact,
he doesn't interfere.
The governor is a Democrat who believes in the sanctity of the legislative institution.
All right, welcome back. We saw the video there. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Amongst a host of issues, he says that the speaker wasn't forthcoming with whatever funds they were receiving, and he kept saying that there were no funds. What do you make of that idea or that reasoning as a basis for impeaching him?
Now, each of them have constitutional attendant remunerations and allowances. Now, it is if the speaker is not forthcoming with their duly prescribed payment as at when due, like let's say a salary of a sitting member, sitting allowances, constituency allowances, that is a gross misconduct on its own, because the law provides that at the end of every sitting, at the end of every month, sitting you pay sitting allowances, and at the end of every month you pay them their salary. At the end of within a specific period, you have to pay constituency allowance. It is not for you to keep such fund. But it's not in my place to make argument for any of this. It is their house, and however they choose to do. The speaker can take the next option, which is to approach a court of law to question the legality of the action. So apart from that, if This is an interview. The interview is different from what transpired at the floor of the House. And it is one thing to what happens at the floor of the House is contained at the proceedings of the House. There are records of proceedings of the House. If that record is a public document, anybody can access it. If you want to know why the Speaker was impeached or the fracas between them, it is for you to lay your hand on those documents, the motions that were moved, the issues that were raised at the floor of the House, not the issues that were raised on TV, before the TV. They are two different things. So it is only that which was raised at the floor of the House that is contained in the proceeding docket that will tell you exactly why and what the Speaker is impeached for. So if he is impeached for gross misconduct, the facts of the gross misconduct will be tailored and be told in those dockets, and you will get to see them. This is from what he said the Speaker was impeached because he's not sharing money. That will be on paper. That will be on paper. I'm not sure that's what happened at the floor of the House, or it will be the most ridiculous impeachment I have ever had.
It's interesting. It brings to mind when people say politicians fight for their interest.
Exactly. Interest is the only engineering factor. The driving force of politics is interest.
All right. Just to sort of round off the program now, there's still a lot going on. We have student loans being deployed this month. I'd like to get your general thoughts on the state of things, particularly the economic side, and how you think things can progress. The NBS released the other day that we are heading very close to 30% inflation. When it comes to food inflation, we already are over 30%. I believe almost 33 or above 33%. What's your take on all of this going forward, particularly with the CBN now seeming or finally setting a date for the next monetary policy committee meeting?
I think we're not being explicit with the truth. What is inflation? The rise of things and the cost.
Of rise,
yes, the cost. Now, if we look at things, as at May, it was around 27%. Now we're at 33%. How does it become
close to 30?
Close to 30%. So how does it become 30%? In May, you were buying a cup of rice for, let's say, 100 naira or 150, and that today you're buying it for 300. How do you measure inflation? Fuel was 200 or so within May, and now it is the same thing. Transport skyrocketed. Let's say transport within Kubwa and inside town skyrocketed from 150 to 500. So how do you measure this inflation? Inflation should be measured according to the rise. We've had over 100% rise in whatever it is. So the inflation should also be 100% of what it were. Now us pegging, for them pegging these now at close to 30, 33, I think somebody is being economical with the truth, because there is nothing in Nigeria. There is nothing. The salaries are still the same, but the cost of living, the cost of survival in Nigeria has risen. Now, how do you calculate that somebody who earns 30,000 and previously could buy a bag of rice for 30,000 naira, and as of today, a bag of rice is 52 to 58,000. So how? The same thing goes to eggs, vegetables. Cost of everything has skyrocketed 100%, and then you're giving us a statistical analysis of it, pegged moving from 27 to 30, just an increase of 3. It does not make sense.
Well, to be fair, as the economists will also say, inflation is really the rate of increase, not the increase itself. So they're saying how fast is it rising, but you still make some points there, and there will always be that question of how open are the people handling our statistics being. I've spoken to a number of statisticians, and they see numbers as almost next to God. And so when numbers are moved, take for instance our employment rates officially on paper is 4.1%. That is to say Nigeria is doing very well. as regards employment. But what happened is they changed the methodology.
No,
and
the
that's how we got those
problem
numbers.
with all of this is the production. We are not a producing nation. We do not have anything we produce. If we are a nation that produces, and take for instance, we almost take everything, money out of this country to buy things. How do we not have inflation? We do not have people who come into Nigeria bring in dollars that we need, exchange it with our own naira, buy things that we produce. If we were producing, let's assume, exporting something of value, and this is what we get from that export, we wouldn't be at where we are. I think my advice to the government is to leave all this politicking and look at the SME. They are the engines of growth. It is time to look at the SME. It is not on paper and not politicized. Empower people who have ideas. There are people who have money stashed here and there. The government will look at political amnesty. Let's see if you have this money, invest this percentage, and we'll let you go. If we have those investments, Nigerians are very intelligent and smart people. It's just that they do not have access to fund. If they have the access to fund, they will be able to produce and engineer the market, have the revolution, the production revolution that can be able to fuel Africa and the world.
All right, fair enough. I'm so sorry we run out of time now, but it's been an interesting one. I'm getting your thoughts on these issues. Thank you so much, Barrister.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, I've been speaking with Barrister Kelechi, who is a legal practitioner and an analyst to do justice on the issues at hand. We'll go on a quick break now. When we return, we'll be delving into the matter of Ondo State. We actually have some breaking news here with the governor nominating Mr. Olaide Owolabi Adelami as the new deputy governor. We'll take a look at these issues and the dissolving of the Executive Council when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back.